Zodiac Killer, full case timeline and facts. Imagine this, a killer standing right outside your door. No one knows what he looks like. No one knows his real name. All they know is that he loved playing mind games with an entire nation. In the late 1960s, a shadow emerged in peaceful California. He attacked young couples, then mailed cryptic letters to newspapers, boldly declaring, "I am the Zodiac." Police scrambled. The public panicked. Codebreakers, psychologists, and the FBI were dragged into the maze. But in the end, the killer vanished. No arrest, no confession, no closure, only unsolved ciphers, mocking letters, and a trail of terror that has haunted America for more than 50 years. This is the complete story. Every attack, every letter, every clue of the most mysterious serial killer in American history, the Zodiac Killer. Are you ready to step into the dark? Zodiac Killer, full case timeline and facts. 1968, the beginning in silence. On December 20th, 1968, a young couple, David Faraday, 17 years old, and Betty Lou Jensen, 16 years old, parked their car along Lake Herman Road, Vallejo, a quiet, familiar dating spot. No shots were heard, no witnesses, no leads. Only two bodies found outdoors, beside the car. At the time, police treated it as a random act of violence. Nobody suspected that this was merely the first chain of horrific murders that would span years. 1969, the year Zodiac reveals himself to the public. July 4th, 1969, Blue Rock Springs Park. Just after midnight, Michael Mageau, 19 years old, and Darlene Farron, 22 years old, were sitting in their car when a strange man approached. He opened fire through the car window. Darlene was killed. Michael survived, and later became the first surviving eyewitness to describe the killer. Hours later, a mysterious phone call was made from a payphone less than a kilometer from the crime scene. The caller claimed responsibility not only for this attack, but also for the 1968 case. That was the first time law enforcement realized this is not a random attacker. This is someone watching, someone who will strike again. July 1969, the first letters arrive. 3 major newspapers in the Bay Area, Vallejo Times, local papers around San Francisco, each received a letter on the same day. Inside every envelope, a 408-character cipher, a threat to kill more people if the letter wasn't published in full, the demand that the cipher be printed on page 1, and a strange symbol, a circle with crosshairs, the killer's chosen signature. In those letters, the author called himself Zodiac. From that moment, the entire nation, and especially the Bay Area, was pulled into a terrifying mind game with a murderer who wasn't simply killing, he was taunting them. September 27th, 1969, attack at Lake Berryessa. On a peaceful afternoon, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were picnicking by Berryessa Lake. Suddenly, a man dressed like a medieval executioner appeared. He wore a black hood over his head. On his clothing, the familiar Zodiac crosshair symbol. He pulled out a knife. He bound them. Then he stabbed, repeatedly. Cecilia died. Brian miraculously survived, later giving investigators detailed descriptions of the attacker's clothing and voice. On the door of Brian's car, the killer left a handwritten note, date, time, location, and his signature crosshair. October 11th, 1969, Paul Stein, a random taxi victim. In the upscale San Francisco neighborhood of Presidio Heights, taxi driver Paul Stein, 29 years old, picked up a short fare. The passenger sat silently in the back seat. When the car stopped, a single gunshot echoed in the quiet night. The Zodiac took a piece of Stein's shirt stained with blood and later sent that very fabric to a newspaper. I am the one who did it. 2 police officers had seen a suspicious figure immediately after the murder, but due to mistakes in the initial description, the suspect was allowed to walk away. November 1969, the 340-symbol cipher Zodiac sent another letter, this time carrying a cipher known as ZEED 340. For over 50 years, this cipher remained one of the most famous unsolved codes in criminal history. Not until 2020 did a team of 3 amateur code breakers finally crack it, but the revealed message? No real name, no identity, only mocking taunts, challenges to police and society. Zodiac seemed to enjoy one thing above all, playing with fear. 1970 to 1974, the final letters and disappearance. In the early 1970s, Zodiac continued to send bomb threats to schools, Mail letters mocking the public, dispatched smaller ciphers, 13 symbol, 32 symbol, etc., claim responsibility for many more murders, most unverified. Then he vanished. No farewell note, no final trace. From 1974 onward, Zodiac only existed in cold case files and in the minds of detectives who never gave up. Suspects. Dozens over the years, but no one convicted. The most prominent suspect over the decades was Arthur Lee Allen, a teacher long suspected to be Zodiac. He fit many suspicious criteria. He exhibited odd behaviors. He had several connections that looked troubling. But no DNA match, no conclusive fingerprint match, no legal evidence strong enough to charge Cheers. The case ran into a wall. Current status, half a century later. Police still keep the case open. Modern DNA techniques are still being applied to old evidence. Independent investigators and true crime enthusiasts continue digging. Thousands of internet sleuths parse unresolved ciphers. But as of now, nobody knows who Zodiac truly was. Nobody knows how many he really killed. Nobody knows if he's still alive or long dead. One thing remains certain. Zodiac Killer is one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American criminal history. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like if a killer not only committed murders, but played mind games with an entire nation through cryptic letters and codes? The Zodiac Killer did exactly that. It began with the Z400 cipher, sent on July 30th, 1969, to 3 Bay Area newspapers, each containing a 408-character code and a deadly threat. Publish this cipher exactly, or more people will die. Accompanied by his signature circle with crosshair symbol, the letter revealed that Zodiac wasn't just killing, he was taunting the public and police alike. Ordinary citizens, Donald and Betty Harden, cracked this cipher within a week, using pattern recognition and substitution, uncovering a chilling confession. I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing animals. I shall not give my name. The public was horrified and fascinated. For the first time, a killer's own words confirmed his crimes while mocking the authorities. A few months later, on November 8, 1969, Zodiac sent the Z340 Cipher, a 340-character message that would remain unsolved for over 50 years. This cipher was far more complex, arranged in rows of symbols with no obvious spacing, suggesting transposition combined with substitution. For decades, codebreakers tried everything, but nothing worked. It wasn't until December 2020 that 3 amateur cryptographers, David Oranchak, Sam Blake, and Jarl Van Eyck, cracked it using modern pattern recognition and software analysis. The decrypted message revealed arrogance, taunting, and his continued enjoyment of murder, but still no name, no identity, and no explanation of who he really was. The world was stunned. Even decades later, Zodiac had outsmarted everyone. Zodiac continued sending smaller ciphers, including 13-symbol and 32-symbol codes, most of which remain unsolved. He mailed letters mocking police, referencing past murders, and daring authorities to catch him. These messages were not just cryptography puzzles. They were psychological weapons, creating a terrifying interaction between the killer and society. True crime enthusiasts, amateur code breakers, and the media alike were drawn into his game, fascinated by every symbol and every hidden message. The Zodiac Killer's letters and ciphers turned murder into a deadly intellectual challenge, proving that sometimes the most frightening part of a killer is not just what he does, but what he writes, leaving a legacy of fear and intrigue that continues to captivate and mystify decades later. Have you ever wondered who the Zodiac Killer really was and why he managed to terrorize California for years without being caught? Over the decades, investigators have focused on dozens of suspects, but none have been definitively linked to the crimes. The most notorious of them was Arthur Lee Allen, a local teacher who exhibited suspicious behavior and had circumstantial connections to some of the murders. Allen carried a reputation for violence and was known to have a fascination with knives and cryptic symbols, yet forensic evidence never conclusively tied him to Zodiac. No DNA, no fingerprints, no eyewitness identification could firmly place him at the crime scenes, and while some statements he made appeared incriminating, others revealed inconsistencies, leaving him in a gray zone of suspicion, plausible but ultimately unproven. Beyond Allen, numerous other individuals have been proposed as Zodiac, some based on vague coincidences, alleged sightings, or patterns in handwriting. Zodiac himself claimed responsibility for 37 murders, though investigators could only confirm 7 victims with certainty. Some experts believe he exaggerated his body count to amplify fear, feed his ego, and maintain his mystique. Comparing the theories, it's clear that the killer may have been highly intelligent, methodical, and adept at misdirection, keeping the public guessing for decades. Analyzing Zodiac's psychology offers chilling insight into his motivations. He selected young couples in isolated locations, often at night, demonstrating careful planning and a desire to control the situation. The letters and ciphers he sent were not merely communications. They were performances designed to manipulate public perception, mock law enforcement, and assert dominance over a frightened community. His taunting style suggests narcissism, a need for recognition, and an almost theatrical enjoyment in creating terror. By sending cryptic messages, he extended his crimes into the minds of millions, turning the investigation itself into a game he controlled. The combination of elusive suspects, unverified claims, and psychological manipulation makes Zodiac a uniquely terrifying figure. He was not only a murderer, but a puppeteer of fear, crafting a legacy of mystery and dread that continues to captivate true crime enthusiasts, amateur detectives, and psychologists alike. Every theory, every suspect, every unsolved cipher invites us to question, could he still be out there? Or was his brilliance in evading capture his final act of control?